This is GARIS, Masculist MGTOW flyers, that is 2-3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 365, entitled "The Alternative to Bullets, the Masculist Crushing of Feminazi Ideas." Description. This flyer states that there are two main ways to stop the hated fluffy feminist hypocrites from wiping out whole populations due to their takeover of the divorce courts, making them so toxic for men that in many countries now 2/3 of young men reject marriage and paternity. Thus these fluffy feminists have become genociders and have to be stopped. One way is with bullets in a sex war, where masculist soldiers go into the streets and simply shoot these feminazi vermin. Then menfair the gender laws, so that men are more inclined to be fathers again. The other main way is to destroy belief in the core ideas of third-wave feminists, so that the feminazis die off, so making the menfairing of the gender laws easier. Text itself. The Alternative to Bullets, Masculist Crushing of Feminazi Ideas by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. The feminazis, in all their fluffy feminist hypocrisy, have become indirect genociders who have to be stopped. They have taken over the divorce courts and made them so toxic for men that in many Western and East Asian countries, two-thirds of young men now refuse to marry, reject paternity and spend their money on themselves. That is, they have gone MGTOW, men going their own way. In South Korea, for example, the birth rate is now under 1 child per woman. Korean and Japanese men are so fed up with the traditional salaryman role, being man-slaves to women, that they have rebelled and stopped marrying, stopped being fathers, and hence are wiping out their populations. South Korea will wipe out half of its population per generation at its current rate. In capital letters, this is a major problem that the politicians need to address. The fluffy feminists, that is, feminists who still have fluffy attitudes towards men, in brackets, a fluffy is a masculist label for a traditional woman who expects to be able to parasite off the money of a man by not bothering to fip up, that is, become a FIP, that is, a financially independent person, by bothering to get a career-competent education so that she can become a FIP as an adult, pulling her own financial weight, and not expecting some stupid, gullible manslave to work for her, so that she can sit on her fat, parasitic ass in a middle-class house raising her kids and have him pay for it all. Fluffies are vermin to masculists, seen as immoral, parasitic manslavers who have to be wiped out. Masculists see manslavery as slavery. Slavery rouses passions. Slavery is a war issue. Look at the US Civil War, which was largely about slavery. And the masculists are at war against the fluffies, aiming to wipe them out, to annihilate them by totally ignoring them, not even pumping and dumping them, so that their fluffy parasite genes are removed from the gene pool. A fluffy can only be a fluffy if she can get her financial claws into some gullible, brainwashed manslave who is prepared to work for her, pay for her to have kids, and then be subjected to a 1 in 4 chance of being financially massacred by her when she gets tired of him, her 41st penis. In brackets. Statistics show that young women under the influence of feminism and the pill have had some 40 different penises in them on average by the time they are 30. Close brackets. She will take him to the fluffy feminist hypocrite-dominated divorce court system and strip him of custody of his kids. He will lose his house to her so she can raise her kids in it. He will be forced to pay child support to kids he will barely see, maybe 2 visits a month. If his ex-wife is a real career incompetent fluffy, then he may have to pay her alimony for life, with no moral nor legal obligations on her to fip up, so that she remains a parasite of him after the divorce the way she was before the divorce. Modern marriage is such a shitty deal for men after the fluffy feminist takeover of the divorce courts that young men are strongly warning each other, in quotes, "Hey, guy, don't be a fool, don't marry. Especially don't have kids, because if you're stupid enough to do that, you'll be playing Russian roulette with your life, with 1 chance in 4 of having your life ruined by a fluffy feminist hypocrite-dominated divorce court who sees you as male and hence as a cash machine to be abused and robbed." These feminist divorce court lawyers and judges are monoconscious, that is, they have only had their feminist consciousness raised, so they are very angry at men for the way that men have oppressed women. For example, blocking women getting the vote, blocking women from entering the professions, for raping women, for beating them at home, etc. Since these fluffy feminists now dominate the divorce courts, they are in a position, consciously or unconsciously, to get their revenge on men by being able to financially crucify divorcing fathers in the divorce courts. These fluffy feminists are truly hated by the Masculists because of their awful hypocrisy. That is, they push for equal rights for women in the parliaments, but behave as fluffy parasites in the divorce courts, rejecting equal obligations with men in bothering to fip up so that they don't parasite off men's money. That is, these fluffy feminists are two-faced hypocrites, wanting equal rights but rejecting equal obligations with men. They want to have their cake and to eat it too. This fluffy feminist hypocrisy in the divorce courts has now become dangerous. In earlier decades, men did not take feminism very seriously because men did not take women very seriously, seeing women's greatly inferior track record, for example, their pathetic 1% of science Nobel Prizes, their 10% smaller brains, etc. More on this later. But now, in the era of third-wave feminism, in which feminists are out to give women real power at men's expense, who are out to abuse and destroy men in many respects, especially in the divorce courts, these feminazis have become indirect genociders. That is, they have made modern marriage such a shitty deal that modern young men now no longer marry, reject paternity, and choose to live the MGTOW lifestyle, often not even sexing women, especially now that 2/3 of women have become sexually repulsive to men, given the fact that in many Western countries 40% of women have become obese and 30% fat. So seeing such women naked would be a sexually repulsive experience for most men. Masculists label such women fuffs, that's fat, unfuckable females, or yuckers, that is, causing the yuck reaction in men when they see such women naked. With 2/3 of young men in Western and East Asian countries now rejecting marriage and paternity, they are causing the birth rate to plummet. That is, they have become genociders, wiping out their populations. But they are merely reacting against the toxicity of the divorce courts, caused by the short-sightedness of the hated fluffy feminist hypocrites who made divorce so toxic for males in the first place. To responsible males, masculist soldiers, and now in capital letters, there is no way that such men will allow these feminazi bitches who have made marriage and paternity so toxic that 2/3 of young men reject marrying and being fathers to wipe out whole populations, so they have to be stopped. This is an extremely serious problem that the politicians desperately need to focus on, to become aware of, to have their consciousness raised about, so that they start thinking hard my mouse has gone dead. Just a minute. It's the trouble with real time. Oh, I'm going to have to stop.